Hey everyone, today we are going to be solving basic percent problems. And basic percent problems basically means that we're going to be finding percents, parts, and wholes in different situations, and we're doing it purely from a computational standpoint. So we are eventually going to take these basic percent problems and we are going to apply them through word problems. But right now we're just going to talk about how do we calculate these things. I did black out some of the directions because we are going to be doing them in a little bit different way this year. We are going to be using the percent proportion for everything. So the percent proportion, I'm going to put it up here at the top. Is percent over 100, because percents are always out of 100, is equal to the part, which is represented by the word is, over whole, which is represented by the word of. So this is what we're going to set up each time because we have been working with ratios and equivalent fractions this entire year. So we're going to take an idea that we already know and we're going to apply it to percents and use it to answer questions. Now, in this section and through the rest of the module, you are allowed to use a calculator. So in the non-calculator part, we had to find things that went to 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. In this situation, you are going to be able to use the calculator and not have to worry about getting to a specific number. So I'm going to show you how to use the percent proportion with the calculator to help you solve. So in this first part, we are finding the part. Finding the part means that we're finding the top part of the right fraction in the percent proportion. And we are finding how much of the whole a certain percentage is. So when it says 15% of 82, and we think of it like a test score. So my test was out of 82 points, and I scored a 15%. How many questions does that mean I got right? So to set up my percent proportion, I'm always going to start with the percent side. So am I given the percent or am I not? So in this case, I'm given the percent. So it's going to be 15 over 100 is equal to, now this word of right here is what gives away that this is the whole, because you see the of here on the bottom. So this is going to be 82 on the bottom, and then I'm going to put a question mark on top just to not have an empty space. So now to solve these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay within my proportion and I am going to multiply along the diagonal. So whichever diagonal has two values in it, you're going to multiply along that diagonal. 82 times 15 is 1,230. And then you're going to divide by the number that's left over. So I'm going to divide by 100. And 1,230 divided by 100 is 12.3. So my question mark is equal to 12.3. This means that if I scored a 15% on my 82 question test, I got 12.3 questions right. Number 2 says 256%. Now I know when we did percents bigger than 100, we dealt with them a little bit differently. We changed them into mixed numbers instead of improper fractions. But for the percent proportion, we're going to roll with percents are over 100. So this is going to be 256 over 100 is equal to, and again, this of means that 75 goes on the bottom. And I'm going to have my question mark on top. And then the same thing, the question mark is in the same spot. I'm finding how much of 75 this 256% is. Now this percent is really big, so I'm going to expect that my answer to that question mark, the number that fills in that space, is going to be bigger than 75. So 75 times 256 is going to be 19,200. And then I'm going to divide by what's left over. So divided by 100 is going to equal 192. So my question mark is equal to 192. 256 is more than double 100. 192 is more than double 75. We're filling in that equivalent fraction. For number 3, I've got 0.5%, so 0.5 over 100. Again, dealing with that decimal percent, we normally wouldn't put a decimal in our fraction, but because I'm setting up this specific proportion, that's how I'm going to write it. And then this time it tells me that the whole is 50, so the bottom of my fraction is 50, with my question mark on top. So I'm going to do 50 times 0.5. 50 times 0.5 is 25, and then I divide by what's left over. Divided by 100 is 0.25. .5% is really tiny, so I would expect that the answer to this question would be really tiny. So 0.25 is a pretty tiny number. Number 4, I've got 76 over 100. And then my whole is 450. So my question mark is here. So 450 times 76 is going to be 34,200. And then I'm going to divide by what's left over. So divided by 100 is going to be 342. Okay, this is finding the part. So given the percent and the whole, what amount of the whole is the part? In my next example, I'm going to be finding the percent. So you'll notice in each of these questions that I do not have a percent sign. So I'm not setting up the percent side of my percent proportion. That's where my question mark is going to be. So in this one, when I'm setting up my percent out of 100, I don't have a percent. So I'm going to have a question mark out of 100 is equal to, and then this 23 out of 80, here's your part, here's your whole. Because 23 out of, when we talked about ratios, out of meant part to whole, so I have part to whole. So I've got 23 over 80. Now in this one, you should see that the question mark has moved to a different location, and our diagonal has also changed. So this time I'm going to be multiplying 100 times 23, which is 2,300, and then dividing by 80. So I'm dividing by this number that is now left over. So 2,300 divided by 80, and again, you can use a calculator, is going to be 28.75. Now in this one, I'm finding the value that's over 100. The value that's over 100 is the percent. So if I got 23 out of 80 correct, what percent did I get on my test? I got a 28.75%. In number 2, I don't have a percent, so my question mark over 100 is equal to 35 over 70. So I'm going to multiply 100 times 35, so 3,500 divided by 70, because I'm going to divide by what's left over, is equal to 50. And again, I'm finding the value over 100, so I'm finding the percent. This is 50%. So if I got a 35 out of 70 on my test, I got a 50%. In number 7, I'm already given my part over whole fraction, so I just need to write the rest of my percent proportion. So question mark over 100 is equal to 7 over 12. I'm going to multiply along my diagonal. So 700 and then divide by what's left over, divided by 12. And this comes out as 58.33333. You do not need to write all of those threes. I'm going to encourage that you round to this first or second decimal place. And this is going to be 58.3%. If I got a 7 out of 12 on my homework quiz, I got a 58.3%. In number 8, they tell you just separately that the part is this, the whole is this. So I know that my percent is still what's missing. Percent over 100 is equal to 42 over 200. I multiply along my diagonal. So 4,200 divided by 200. And I get 21. So that is 21%. All in all, not great test scores if you want to think of it that way. Okay, and then our last example here is finding the whole. And for finding the whole, we've always taught it with a percent proportion. So you'll see that the percent proportion is right here. Now we're just choosing to be consistent across the board and do everything through the percent proportion. This is where your is over of is really important, because this says 35 is. So that's the is part of your percent proportion. And then here's your of what number. So there's your whole part of your percent proportion. And then I'm also given 7%. So I'm going to start with 7 over 100 is equal to 35 over my question mark. And I can multiply along my diagonal. So 3,500 and then divide by 7 is equal to 500. So this equals 500. So 7% of 500 is 35. For number 10, it says 5 is, and then 25%. So I have my percent, and then of what number? So here's the top, my part, here is the bottom, my whole, and then 25% goes over 100. So 25 over 100 is equal to 5 over my question mark. 100 times 5 is 500 divided by 25 is going to be 20. So this question mark is equal to 20. For number 11, they tell you that the part is 18 and the percent is 9. So you don't have to figure out the is over of part. So we know that 9 over 100 is equal to 18 over my question mark. So 100 times 18 is 1,800 divided by 9, because I divide by what's left over, is equal to 200. So this would be like if I was trying to figure out how many questions were on the test. So I got a 9%. I got 18 questions right. How many questions were on the test? 200. Number 12, set up the exact same way. So 56 over 100, making sure that you're putting your percent over 100 is equal to part over question mark. 100 times 14 is 1,400, and then I'm going to divide by 56. Is going to be 25. So this question mark equals 25. So in these examples, we are using the percent proportion every single time. So you're going to set up percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. Depending on what you are finding, your question mark should move to a different location, but that does not change your process for solving. You're going to multiply along the diagonal and then divide by the number that's left over. You can use a calculator. And then these computational ideas, what we're using to find these things is going to be used to help us answer some context questions in the near future.